Hey everyone, I'm Cary Smith and I'm sitting here with Amar Shah. And we're both with Client First Capital. And so, Amar, you know how if you're probably over 40 and you log on to, any kind of news website, it's hard not to see an ad that pops up, typically from a financial company that's asking the question, how much do you need to save for retirement, right? And most of that is just clickbait to get you to click on that. There's not a number in there that's actually probably going to pertain to you anywhere in that article, because the number that you need really is your number. And in most cases, that number is derived by sitting down with a financial planner, and thinking about your future, thinking about the retirement that you want to have, and the experiences that you want to have, and balancing that with the life that you want to live today before you retire, and then coming up with that number. And so that's a lead in to the topic that we have for today, which is, what are the hidden costs of oversaving for retirement? So, Amar, I'm going to let you kind of kick us off.
Yeah, that was a great intro, Cary, to this topic. Some people say you can never save too much for retirement, right? But that statement is, I feel, false because it leads to missed opportunities, unnecessary sacrifices, and increased cost in retirement, right? And for those people, it's hard to evaluate where they are they on track, and give themselves emotionally the permission to spend in retirement, right? I think that's a big part of that. Those calculators, God, they got to be financial planning 0.01
Right.
version, right? And if you work with like a New Day Retirement or a Boudin financial planning software, you're doing it yourself. I think that's maybe zero point 0.1 or like 1.0, right? Like maybe the next level to get you the data. But if you're working with a financial advisor who's asking you beyond what are your essential expenses, what are your discretionary expenses, but really, how do you want to live the next decade of your life? What are the experiences that you want? Now we're getting to the essence of understanding how much you should save and if you're on track, right? So defining an adequate savings retirement fund is probably the first place to go with that. And the gold standard is working with an advisor that's asking you those type of questions.
That's right.
The entry level is maybe using those calculators online or doing it yourself, or even just like the 4% rule or 25 times your annual expenses to give you a ballpark idea, right?
That's right.
Um, I think that gives you kind of like the first place to start, right? And um, and then you can see, hey, if I'm over saving, what are my opportunity costs? Or maybe I need to engage with an advisor to really understand what are the trade-offs that I'm making now.
Yeah, so let's talk about those trade-offs. But I'm going to say maybe I'm going to rephrase it and say maybe some of the downsides of oversaving for retirement. And so you've kind of touched on a couple of them, but I would throw in there, there may be some tax inefficiencies, right? If you're just pouring money into tax deferred accounts, those taxes are going to be due at some point, most likely when you're retired, and so you may just be creating some tax inefficiencies for yourself.
I wouldn't call it inefficiencies. I would call it like tax bombs or like tax landmines that you work your whole life, you do all this hard work, you save a ton of money, and then you come into retirement, you've paid off your house, you don't have any deductions because the kids are out of the house, and now you're facing a massive tax bill. Not only a tax bill, but your IRMA calculations for Medicare premiums are going up, and then you kind of look at yourself and said, boy, I could have retired earlier, spent more of my money, do some of the experiences that I wanted to do, and make sure that you limit the tax bill, right? But
Yeah.
here's some missed opportunities, right? Quality of life, right? Like that's the big one. Overworking unnecessarily sometimes can go towards health events, right? Sometimes why people retire is because they do have a health event and they
Hmm.
realize that life is finite, right? You talked about the tax burdens, but the hardest one is giving yourself permission to spend. Is in a weird way is how I would say it. Is that uh, people feel uncomfortable spending now because they don't want to have any unintended consequences for later in life not to have the funds, right? So building in a margin of safety, right? And maybe looking at maybe not spending more, but having more experiences, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and,
So
and we,
go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
Hey, I was gonna add in another one. And so, if you're if if the way that you're oversaving for retirement is by overworking, there may be some other things you're missing out on. And so, you may be delaying, living a healthy life, right? Exercise and good diet and things of that nature. You may be overstressed, all of those sorts of things. And and they might do enough damage to your health that you don't have the good health that you would like to have when you retire, or maybe you didn't build those healthy lifestyle habits along the way, and it's harder to establish those when you're older. And so there may be some non-financial, but really just quality of life issues that you're missing out on, by overworking, if that's the root of the oversaving.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you right size your retirement or your savings to know where you are? Well, obviously, first, like we said earlier, is you got to have a financial plan, right? You got to align, and really the gold standard is really to identify what is important, what are your values, identify experiences that align with your values, and track your financial plan to make sure it's in alignment with your experiences as well as what's important to you. When those three frames are aligned, then you know you're living the best life possible because your expenses are aligned to what things are important to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's good. You say a lot that, you got to put pen to paper, right? And,
Yeah.
said another way is you got to run the numbers, right? And see, and if the numbers look good and you're in really good shape, you can then maybe focus on the experiences that you want to have today. But it does start with pen to paper or running the numbers.
Yeah. And when you run the numbers, you're going to optimize your withdrawal strategy. You're going to
Mhm.
optimize, all right, where here's the Medicare threshold. This is how much income I want to show. So, like, how do we do that, right? And how do we consider, the impact of that? A big thing that comes out of planning is most people do decide to retire earlier from their current job, but then they follow a passion or start a business or do something else, work part time, maybe work in nonprofits or something like that's close and dear to their heart, and they consider a phased retirement, right, where they're redefining, I don't want the stress and burden of this, but I want to maintain the social structure and having purpose. Well, I'm going to kind of phase it down in steps, so that can be built into a financial plan.
Yeah. Very good. Okay. Um, any other final thoughts, or maybe a little summary to wrap this up?
Yeah, again, we talked about having a strong uh, financial plan being crucial because excessive savings can be unproductive because we talked about the tax burdens, but we also didn't include there, or we did include the emotional burdens, right? And I think that is beyond the numbers. That is the biggest piece because you have the current life that you're in, you want to maximize your experiences. This is how we do it. It's through planning and making sure that we're on track,
Yeah.
personalized for you. So
Yeah. Very
balance
good.
is the key, and ensuring that you get there. So if you need help or if you're thinking about this as a topic that's in your mind and you want a sounding board or a third party to bounce ideas off of, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can find us at clientfirstcap.com, and we have a newsletter that comes out that you can subscribe to, and also give this video a like, and it helps other people find our content.
Yeah. Very good. Hey, Amar, good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.